Analysis machine. Ready to go digital?
Affirmative.
Pro-digis. Then give me file 27-01-04.
Recognize. Accessing Izzy Izumi's data.
He's a prodigy, a genius, and definitely the person you'd want in your corner when you're stranded in a world of data. So why wouldn't the computer genius be the naturally selected leader of the DigiDestined? And is it possible that this character's unrelenting thirst for knowledge can be something of a double-edged sword? Hey guys, this is D Reaper. Today we're gonna do a character analysis on Izzy Izumi. Since we've got a lot to cover, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Something quite distinguishing about Izzy is how he appears to be completely at home, lost in his own world in his computer. This is exactly where he is when we first meet him, and Tai expresses surprise that he drags all his computer equipment to summer camp. Right away, when the kids are thrown into the digital world, we see Izzy thinks about things very differently from other kids, or likely even most of us as a collective. How about a quick example? Let's say you're on your routine morning jog, down an easy trail near your house. Then suddenly a huge T-Rex emerges from the underbrush, and it looks pretty hungry. Most people would probably run for their lives without giving it a second thought, until maybe later, when feeling a semblance of safety, pause to wonder how a T-Rex happened to be on this previously T-Rex-free route. Well, someone like Izzy might ask why a T-Rex was on this route. If that doesn't seem to make too much difference, just stick with us. It'll start to get clearer. With a group being pitched into an unfamiliar world, naturally they would be asking some of the most obvious questions, like how did we get here, and how do we get back home? But Izzy going beyond the how and straight to the why indicates for him the method of them being here is not nearly as fascinating as the reason, and even in the middle of frequent monster attacks, Izzy is constantly hypothesizing possible explanations to what brought them to the digital world and why. While others are exploring a mysterious factory, Izzy's content to sit alone with his computer, trying to decipher the glyphs he finds on a massive battery, attempting to harness its power. Here is where we'll find some of the fundamental basis of Izzy's behavior, as well as a prelude to the deep concepts his character projects. So, buckle up. The stark difference between Izzy's behavior and that of the other kids sparks an interesting discussion between Izzy and Tentomon, where Tentomon asks Izzy if he's satisfied being in isolation from the others, and if he ever worries that he might be missing out on the fun others are having without him. But Izzy responds that he can't imagine anything more fun than being the pioneer in the pursuit of knowledge. Their conversation takes a philosophical turn, as Izzy expresses that his desire to sate his boundless curiosity extends to uncovering the truth about the Digimon as well. To which Tentomon asks, what truth is there to uncover? I am what I am, and I'm standing right in front of you. I'm not hiding anything.
What are you theorizing about? What's the big mystery? I am who I am. I'm not hiding anything.
He then goes on to ask if the origin or the reason that a thing exists holds more precedence than the thing itself. This triggers a flashback in Izzy, where he recalls uncovering a secret his parents were keeping from him, and spoilers, Izzy is adopted, something that at the very least was very damaging to him, because of how he found out. Though because we have only limited context in exactly how this discovery was made, we kind of have a which came first, the Phoenix or the Flame scenario, or a causality dilemma for our nerdy nerds.
Notice, wouldn't the Harry Potter reference be the one for nerdy nerds?
Either way, pick your poison. Or try both if it strikes your fancy. The point we're trying to make is, we don't know if it was Izzy's natural curiosity that led him to uncovering this family secret that he wasn't ready for, or if stumbling upon this secret by chance sparked a desire to unearth all mysteries to avoid the pain of being blindsided by what happened back then. In either case, it does support the idea that knowledge can be a very powerful tool, but also very dangerous. And this is where we get the other major theme for Izzy's journey, the pitfalls of knowledge acquisition. There are more than a few endeavors that people can easily agree can lead to misfortune. Pursuit of power, vengeance, or fame, to name a few. But even though seeking knowledge for its own sake is often seen as a noble pursuit, knowledge without restraint might be one of the most damaging paths imaginable. There are several extreme examples we could mention, but let's keep things grounded. We're already getting pretty philosophical. Many of you are probably familiar with the line, "you're messing with forces that you don't understand," or some variation of that statement. This is usually a phrase used as a warning about the dangers of dealing with powerful forces without the knowledge or respect for what may result of it. I'll argue that in order to be a pioneer in the realm of knowledge, you do have to be willing to rub against this line, which of course can be quite dangerous, to not just the pursuer, but also those around them. We see this play out in real time, as things start going haywire, as Izzy somewhat successfully hacks the battery and the Digivolution program in his Digivice. But because power comes in response to a need, not a desire, it causes Tentomon an excruciating amount of pain. Izzy decides to kill the program, giving up on that particular route of information, though the behavior of the data and how it directly impacts the world leads him to understand the literal digital nature of the digital world. amongst other things. Later, when Angemon attacks, Izzy is able to replicate the Digivolution code, allowing his partner to digivolve. Though when he tries to replicate it again for Patamon, it doesn't respond, and he realizes that there must be deeper layers to it. When Izzy relays his discoveries to the rest of the group, their reaction is somewhat half-hearted, which is kind of a common theme. He's like, guys, I just discovered we can hack reality in this world on a molecular level. If we can harness this power, we can be gods among men. And they're like, so what you're saying is they didn't have a food court on the other side of the building. And in their defense, most everything Izzy says goes way over their heads. So they'd hardly know how to apply the information, even if they understood it. But because of this, Izzy will oftentimes talk to himself, as the only person who can fully understand what he's saying, and at times become isolated from others in pursuit of information. These behaviors cause the others to sometimes give him the side eye, and on some occasions openly mock him for his efforts. This is yet another pitfall of knowledge. Sometimes striving to understand more makes it harder for others to understand you. Izzy's isolation tendencies are like a beast that keeps feeding into itself. The more he spends time alone, the harder it is to connect with others. When the group is separated by Devimon, we see firsthand how quickly Izzy is willing to table all other aspects for the pursuit of knowledge, as when he and Tentomon stumble upon some ancient ruins, Izzy suspends the search for the others in order to investigate. Izzy is pretty dismissive toward Tentomon's suggestion to continue searching for the others, as he suspects Izzy's statements about taking a quick look and just taking a minute to be false. Sure enough, when Izzy gets his computer plugged in, he completely loses track of time, completely forgetting about finding the others. Fortunately, some of the others find him, instead, as Mimi and Palmon eventually arrive at the ruins. Mimi is very happy to see him, but once she finds out it's just the two of them, she's confused at why he's just sitting there instead of searching for the others. Izzy's pretty indifferent to Mimi's arrival. He doesn't even get up when she greets him, but instead continues his work, and like with Tentomon, is pretty dismissive with Mimi's request. When the others see that there's no getting through to him in this state, they decide to sit and wait until he's done. But time is no factor when Izzy's in the zone, and after a few hours, Mimi is royally ticked off and lets him have it. Though Mimi is throwing a full-on tantrum, to be fair, she's been very patient, especially considering her personality. But Izzy's complete lack of communication set her over the edge. Even when she was crying and yelling, Izzy seemed baffled that she could possibly be upset, and claimed that he was doing important work. And for Izzy's side, that's true also. Well, at least in theory. The truth is he didn't know what secrets the ruins would uncover, but regardless of the reasoning, it really highlights Izzy's inept social skills. Even being able to say something like, sorry guys, this might take a little longer than I thought, or thank you all for being so patient, if you'll bear with me just a little bit longer. But as is, Izzy can't even register that he had a part to play in the mess. He's so unapologetic, Palmon even asks if he likes computers more than people. But proving to Mimi and Palmon that he is indeed more warm-blooded human than cold-hearted machine, when Mimi and Tentomon get lost inside the ruin maze, Izzy puts his work on hold in order to help them find a way out. However, in the aftermath of their escapade, after Sentarumon shows them the significance of the ruins, but explains his power and knowledge of deeper workings are limited, Izzy proves once and for all that he sees no issue with his previous actions, as he sits down to resume his work and is already deaf to Mimi's pleading, pointing out that this is exactly what started the whole mess to begin with. It's only because Mimi accidentally resolved the situation by kicking the black gear that he didn't detach himself from Mimi and the others once again. Shortly after this, we get some consistent examples of how Tai and Izzy think differently than each other. And we're not talking about how Tai probably invested a lot more points in strength and constitution while neglecting intelligence. But if you followed our character analysis on Tai, then you should be aware that he wasn't made leader just because he has the hair for it. But he has a lot of behaviors and characteristics that make him well suited for the job. After the majority of the team links up at Primary Village, Izzy shares what he discovered about the Digivices, and after Leomon is dealt with, he gives the group the full story about Devimon, and leaves it to the group to decide whether or not they will confront Devimon. While Tai and Izzy are on the same side, Izzy's reasoning seems to take a mechanical approach to the situation. If we do what they brought us here to do, then there'll be no reason not to let us leave. If we do A and B, naturally, it'll equal C. And it's the same mentality when they decide to go to server. In addition to being kind of cold, it also presents limitations to his thinking, as Izzy has complete trust in the formula, with him even stating it's impossible to lose because the Digivices are coded to oppose Devimon. Now, don't get the wrong idea.
Yes, he gets a little wrapped up in his work and doesn't always interact well with others, but he's a good boy.
In spite of his sometimes cold and calculated approach, Izzy does show compassion to others, and yes, they do in fact win the fight against Devimon, but his over-reliance on formula can sometimes narrow his vision, kind of ironic for someone with such a vast wealth of information. One instance of this is when he and Matt go on their quest hunt, When he learns Matt wants to find his crest not just to evolve his partner to the next level, but also to achieve some form of inner growth, Izzy does show surprise at the idea of an alternative motivation besides achieving the crest's primary designated function. As the group continues their crest hunt on server, Izzy has his greatest revelation yet when they come across another coded runes. With the knowledge he has gained from previous ruins and the information he got from hacking Edamon's network, Izzy has all the confirmation he needs about the digital world being composed of living data, and it comes with the revelation that they too have become data as residents of this world. And with that knowledge, he's able to manipulate the data to do some pretty amazing things, like pull up holograms on command, and even transport them across a great distance by sending the group like an email. But even with these signs and wonders, as Izzy's trying to explain his findings, the others quickly grow fatigued with his explanations, and before too long, they're almost mocking him again.
Is there a point to this somewhere? That's terrific, Izzy. Great time for a geography lesson.
Pay attention and you might learn something.
Uh-oh, he's in computer dark mode. This could take a while.
Just bits of data, so I uploaded us as file attachments.
Okay, I believe you. Hey, all this techno talk's making my head spinning.
Computer guys can never just do something, TK. That'd be too easy. They gotta spend all day telling you how they'll do it.
I think it's important to point out the group's attitude, even in times that Izzy's knowledge provides a major breakthrough, because I believe it helps further explain Izzy's reactions later on. Even with the less than supportive attitude of the others, Izzy keeps plucking away at his computer, and it's only because of his diligence that the others are able to infiltrate Edamon's base and later on rescue Sora. When the team splits up after Tai goes missing, we get further confirmation about how hard Izzy can push himself in pursuit of a goal, so much so that he can ignore hunger and fatigue. Technically, we've seen Izzy do this already, back at the ruins and in the factory, but for those of you who don't respect the concept of sitting behind a desk on the computer as work, in this instance, Izzy and Tetamon are on a multi-day hike in the mountains while searching for Tai and Genai. When Tetamon suggests taking a break, Izzy treats this like a ridiculous request, saying that they don't have time to rest, meaning despite his stature, Izzy's fortitude is likely greater than or equal to Tai's. As Tai mentioned, he ignores his fatigue and hunger at times, but Izzy seems to be able to turn it off completely. This is a talent that can definitely come in handy in a pinch, but this level of detachment might make it difficult if put in charge of a team. During their search, Izzy and Tetamon fall into Vedamon's trap, where Izzy is strong-armed into giving up his knowledge and curiosity. Vedamon describes these things as an unnecessary hindrance, as he cites some of the pitfalls of knowledge that we mentioned already, such as the danger of poking your nose into things you don't fully understand, or the idea of finding more than you bargained for in your pursuit of information. I think Izzy's final desperate cry for mercy as he falls into the depths can be a callback to the revelation about his parents. In Vedamon's domain, we see the opposite extreme of Izzy's life philosophy, as he is hypnotized into abandoning all but the most basic thoughts for functioning.
It's all you need to know.
All you need to know, whether you like it or not.
But proving once more that Izzy's not all nuts and bolts under the dome, it's his compassion that brings him back to his senses when he sees Pabumon crying over the forgotten time that they've spent together. Now, a big shift occurs in Izzy's character after Tai is elected as leader. It might seem odd that Izzy is willing to sit back and allow Tai to solve Mairosumon's gate puzzle based on instinct, but when you take into account that we've seen a lot of times, even when Izzy's shown to know exactly what he's talking about, the others seem less than enthusiastic about what he has to say. And when Tai charges Izzy to solve the puzzle, Izzy is legitimately shocked, likely due to the sudden change in attitude towards his thoughts and opinions concerning matters of consequence. By now, Izzy has learned to trust Tai, as he sees his great importance in the group's dynamic, and with this act, Tai shows the feeling is mutual, having experienced a major attitude change after the Datamon incident. Izzy uses his knowledge to get the puzzle as far as he can go, then turns it back over to Tai to complete the rest. This marks the beginning of a very intricate dynamic duo between Izzy and Tai, and Izzy's development after this point is a great example of how a good leader can bring out the strengths and potential in others. As the fight continues in the real world, Izzy's pursuit of knowledge becomes more focused, and usually, as soon as he makes a discovery, he goes directly to Tai to see how he wants to utilize the information. And since he always has Tai's backing, all his theories are taken seriously. It doesn't mean that they suddenly comprehend everything he's talking about, but following Tai's example, the others have Izzy simplify things when he can, and decide to trust him when he cannot. And this is the same with his parents. When the Bakuman start rounding up civilians, his parents are perplexed to see him still messing around on his computer in a time of crisis. He tries to quickly explain the situation and that he's trying to protect them, but of course it sounds like nonsense. His mom tries to physically pull him away from his computer, but his dad says maybe they should trust him, and he quite literally bets their lives on their son. This gamble pays off, as Izzy is able to hide them within a digital barrier, and they are one of the few families that don't get captured. As Izzy prepares to leave and link up with the others, his mother tells him that she can see he's grown a lot, and that she may not understand what's going on, but he will always be her baby boy. A sentiment that seems to strike a hard emotional chord with Izzy, considering what he knows. And we see another one of the few instances where Izzy gets emotional. But he'll have one more of these moments with his parents. In the Eye of the Storm, Izzy's parents approach him and tell him the truth about him being adopted. They have a long overdue discussion about how Izzy came to be part of their family, and Izzy admits part of the reason he lost himself in his computer was a form of escapism, trying to bury the knowledge he uncovered. Ironic for the infinite knowledge seeker. But with everything out in the open, he realizes his origins don't change much. They all love each other, and are still every bit a family whether they share the same blood or not, somewhat entering the philosophical discussion he and Tentamon had at the beginning of the series. Showing just how close they are, Izzy's parents stick with him for the remainder of the My Little Mon arc, saying whatever happens, they're in it together, and they even help solve the prophecy to help bring down Venom My Little Mon. When the team returns to the Digiworld, Izzy works tirelessly. Every second of downtime they have, Izzy's sifting through data on the Dark Masters and even their own Digimon, looking for favorable matchups and weaknesses they can exploit. No matter how the group is divided up, Izzy sticks close to Tai, and I believe the two have a mutual understanding that each one needs the other to operate at maximum efficiency. The two really have the Captain-Lieutenant routine down packed. One of Reaper's favorite instances between the two is Tai observing Puppetmon's henchmen through his telescope, which is scanned to his Digivice, after which he passes his Digivice to Izzy, who scans it into his computer so they can formulate a plan of attack. The two really work well together. That only makes it all the more out of line when Tai attacks Izzy when he tries to talk Tai down from overexerting the group. And if Izzy recognizes this, you know Tai is going too far. Izzy shows a lot of guts, proving he's willing to stand up to someone much bigger and stronger than himself, if he believes that they're in the wrong. Izzy gets tackled and decked by Tai, but just a few minutes later, when Tai recognizes he was being a complete jerk, he offers Izzy to get his get back, but Izzy adamantly refuses, even after additional prompting from the Digimon and Tai himself, to let him have it. Izzy quickly accepts the apology and moves on, recognizing that there is nothing to be gained by unnecessary violence, and proving once more the depth of his loyalty and that he can be quite courageous. In the last battle, while Tai and War Greymon are being pummeled by Paimon, Tai refuses to let the others get involved. Izzy shows open frustration about not being able to fight, still advising Tai from the sidelines. He acknowledges Tai's reasoning, but counters if the two of them fall in battle before the others arrive, it will be for naught. But even though it pains him to watch, he obeys Tai's orders, choosing to trust the team leader to the very end. And finally, when it's time to say goodbye, Izzy and Tentamon's farewell is certainly the most clunky, showing that in spite of all his growth, he's still somewhat lacking in social tact.
Anything for you. Give me a hug.
You're joking me!
But even so, it doesn't take a computer genius to see how much he loves and cares for his friends. And that should about do it for our analysis on Izzy. To say the DigiDestined couldn't have done it without him is an understatement of the century. Izzy's endless quest for knowledge might occasionally put him on the fringes of the group, but when it's focused on helping his friends, it turns him into a near unstoppable force, putting the impossible within reach for the DigiDestined team. Hey guys, this is D Reaper Post Credits, and if you made it this far, we just want to say thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed yourself today, don't forget to like the video before you go. We've almost completed our analysis on the Season 1 DigiDestined, so if you're joining us midway, don't forget to catch up on the others via the playlist linked below. And with that said, I believe it's time to bring this video to a close. My name is D Reaper, and I'm a YouTuber for fun. Today's challenge? Share your knowledge. You can drop any advice, words of wisdom, or random facts in the comment section so we can all learn a little. Good luck, and we'll be seeing you all in the next one.